Greetings, friends, and welcome back to the Musings from the Mount podcast. I'm your host, Joseph Carenza. In today's episode, Michael and I dive deep beneath the surface of that spiritual maxim we mention almost every week. Energy follows thought. So what exactly is this energy? And how does thinking actually work as a creative force? We explore the concept of psychic energy as the primary current powering creation itself, and examine how our thoughts function like magnetic charges that manifest what we focus on. This conversation gets surprisingly practical as we discuss how to recognize when we're cutting ourselves off from this energy flow and how to reconnect with it through beauty and gratitude. And we hope you enjoy the podcast. And if you do enjoy the podcast, please consider going to meditationmount.org and donating. Your donation helps us to bring you this podcast as well as all the other programs the Mount produces, both today and in the future. We're incredibly grateful and honored by your support. Now, back to the podcast and the wise use of power. So we recently did an episode on responsibility. And, I'm always, I love the quote from Spider-Man, with great power comes great responsibility. But I thought, one of the things you suggested was looking a little bit further into underneath the hood of what it means to use this responsibly, use power responsibly. And that begs the sort of investigation of some of the terms and some of the ideas and concepts. And maybe we get a little bit under the hood. But when we start thinking about power, it's energy, it's thoughts. But what do those mean? Like, what does energy mean? Like, when we say energy follows thought, what are we even talking about?
I think this is a perfect door to open, because probably this is the most frequently used phrase in all our podcasts over the past few years.
Yeah.
Energy follows thought, because that's the occult maxim. That's how things show up, because we apply thought and energy to something. Mm-hmm. But I'd like to double click on energy follows thought and actually explore what is this energy? What's the nature of this energy? And then thought, what's the nature of thinking? What is this process called thinking?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Not that we'll have a definitive answer, but it's like more petals will be unfolded and more will be revealed, hopefully, through our exploration. And because we're on this continuous journey of unfolding of knowledge. And knowledge, when it unfolds, particularly through the gateway of the heart, becomes wisdom that can be applied in service to the furtherance of evolution. But I want to draw upon Agni Yoga today and use quotes. We could have taken another source, another sort of esoteric source of knowledge. But the Agni Yoga is very pithy. It's very fiery. It's very clear, and I like the way that things are just stated and presented. So what I'd like to do is to take a quote and then say, well, what does it actually mean to us in daily life? How does this play out? Because unless we understand how energy follows thought really plays out in daily life and the consequences of this, we're not going to be co-creators. We're going to be, if you like, elements of creation that simply are on the receiving end of stuff, rather than being causal. To be co-creative agents of the one life means that we have to shift into causal mode. Causal mode means that we use this maxim and apply it. Energy follows thought. So let's ask the question then, what is this energy? And in the Agni Yoga teachings, it's called psychic energy. Psychic doesn't mean anything to do with somebody being psychic and tuning into discarded entities. We're talking about psychic energy being the primary energy. So what it says in the Agni Yoga teachings, and this is taken from Helena Rurick's letters. She compiled all her letters to her students, and this is an extract from one of them. Psychic energy is called primary energy. Therefore, it includes all other energies, which are only its differentiations. So psychic energy is the whole thing, the whole enchilada.
Right.
And then she also says in the same letter, fire and psychic energy are inseparable, for the latter is the quality of fire. Psychic energy is the primary energy. But the primary energy, this is what keeps us alive. This is what moves through us. This is what allows us to be and do.
Okay. Right.
Now, do we be and do in a thoughtful way?
Yeah.
Do we be and do in a way that is a partnership with the life of which we live and move and have our being? So why don't we look at some of the different names that have been used over the centuries for this psychic energy? So when we say energy follows thought, just for this episode, we're going to say that, let's call this psychic energy. It's been called, as we just said, primal energy, primary energy. It's been called fiery energy, prana, fohat, love, striving. It's been called the synthesis of all radiations of the nerves, the great aum, A-U-M, because it's the word that gave birth to everything. Therefore, it is the energy of birthing itself, the energy of creation. It's also been called the energy of space or spatial energy. So spatial energy means that space is simply that in which birth takes place, and therefore it's filled with the one energy, this fiery energy of space. Therefore, it also is called by the name the fiery might. Might here simply means the power to bring something about. And then a term, teros, T-E-R-O-S. And then in the Agni Yoga description, it adds a couple of other things, beauty, grace. But they sum this up by saying, no matter what the name, the meaning is one. This psychic energy is the life giver. It's the channel of the creative force. It's the impeller to knowledge. And by impeller to knowledge doesn't mean you know more stuff, you have more of a database. The impeller to knowledge is the striving towards self-realization and self-knowing. Because we're told that we are microcosms of the macrocosm, and that the degree that we get it and understand that, and I'd like to come back to this a little later in this episode, is when Pythagoras had the mystery school at Crotona, there was this phrase, if you like, over the archway, over the gateway as you entered, man, know thyself. That was the secret. That was the key. If you know yourself, you know the whole cosmos. Because it said that the trinity of man, or humanity, is the key that unlocks the secrets that are locked up in nature.
Yeah.
So once we understand our coding, our combination, it's a combination lock. So it's a trinity. It's a threefold, A-U-M. So I don't want to get sort of too out there, but you could say that humanity is guided by psychic energy. All the great achievements to the most ordinary things we do each day is guided by psychic energy, because it's the stream upon which we are floating, upon which we're carried, and we draw from that stream. It's an energy stream. We're in it. The thing is, like, as they say, a fish doesn't know it's in water because it's surrounded by it. In the same way, we forget or don't understand that we are in this psychic energetic field. We are psychic energy. In fact, we're crystallizations of psychic energy called a human form.
Right.
So,
Yeah.
So going back to the Agni Yoga, they really emphasize the most important thing is for people to learn to sense its presence. Then cooperation with it will be realized. That's interesting, isn't it? To sense its presence rather than to understand what it is. To sense its presence means to merge with it, to become one with it. And then you don't have to figure out what it is with your mind. I am you, you are me, I am it, it is me. And we're recording this in the sun sign of Leo, and the spiritual motto of Leo is I am that, and that I am. Mm-hmm. Once we understand that, oh my gosh, I'm it and it's me.
Yeah.
So it's, and psychic energy then permeates everything. It suffuses and infuses everything that is. And one of the illustrations that Agni Yoga gives, it says that human beings know that salt permeates the oceans. You know, you go to the oceans and you taste it and it's salty. But we don't yet know that what permeates space is this energy called psychic energy. Mm. We haven't tasted it yet. Yeah. We don't know what it really is. So what does this bring up, Joey, before we go further for you?
For me, it's interesting because this is an approach where it's almost like it's kind of neat because it's the non-mathematical way of looking at it. It's the sense of knowing this energy. So this is open to anyone. You don't have to be a deep alchemical scholar to understand this. This is we're all in the pool together, and I like that we're in this in the same way that everyone in the ocean is connected. You know, we're connected to each other. And when you start looking at it from that perspective, you really start to understand the responsibility we have individually to be mindful in how we use this incredible energy generation machine, or this incredible change machine that is the human form, the human brain. You know, we're all capable of great psychic energy. And I didn't really understand what that meant at first when I first heard that. You know, I assumed psychic. Oh, I can have, you know, I can find out ESP, or, you know, no, but like you know, it's kind of the rage to manifest things. You know, in the spiritual community, and especially online, there's so many people talking about manifestation, but you know, that's where that line, with great power comes great responsibility. You really have to start being careful about what you manifest. And that doesn't mean like, oh, bring me $1 million. No. I mean, you are affecting everyone's energy you come in contact with, like physically in your day, but you're also affecting everyone's energy on the planet. You know?
Well, thank you. Because manifestation is the precipitation of psychic energy in a particular form. Right. And that form has been shaped by the thought. Mm-hmm. So here we go. Energy follows thought. So what is thinking, Joey? I want to follow up with what you just opened up here, because unless psychic energy is directed by the heart, you can't be successful. Agni Yoga says a science that does not understand the foundations of psychic energy cannot succeed. Mm. It is tied up with the heart. It's because the psychic energy is the heart of all things. Right. So I was thinking of this just before we began recording, and I wrote down a sentence here, trying to understand energy follows thought. What is thinking? And this is the sentence I wrote. Thinking is the way we participate as co-creative and conscious elements in the continuous evolution of the one life. By thinking, when we direct our thought with intent, it becomes a magnetic charge, and that magnetic charge contains our desired outcome. So when we discharge that and carry it out, the thought, when the thought is finally precipitated and crystallized, it becomes what we intended. It becomes the manifestation of our deep desire. So thinking is that which allows new things to unfold and be born. Now the question is, what are we filling space with? And this is what you just said. Yeah, you can dream about, hey, I wish I had $1 million. Mm-hmm. If you focus on, I wish you had $1 million, you're going to find ways of bringing that about. Some of them, they may not be legal.
Yeah.
but if that's the desired outcome, it has to take place, because whatever you set in motion has to be completed, unless you abort it.
Right.
Just as you can abort a fetus in the womb. You can abort the thought process because, let's remember, a thought goes through an embryonic process of taking shape. It takes shape with this nucleus, this germ of an idea, and then that germ is magnetized by our focused intent, and then it becomes stronger and more attractive, and it calls to it elements of the mental substance, elements of emotional and astral substance to give it feeling and color. And then if it needs to show up in the realm of time and space as a physical object, it will call to itself atoms that give it a physical body. We're a prime example of that. You and I are sitting here as souls encased in this threefold human suit.
Right.
Now, that is some kind of creative imagination. I mean,
that's some high-level alchemy.
That is high-level alchemy. So I go back to your point is that even a little thought, all it takes is me to cast out some sort of negative thought. And Agni Yoga says, you don't know that thought may cause somebody on the other side of the world to have an accident or to become poisoned. For a lot of people, that's a stretch.
Yeah, I mean, it's the greatest possible multiplier of the butterfly effect.
It is the butterfly effect.
Yeah. And you really have to. I mean, if you're coming at this for the first time, that seems probably ridiculous. But the more time you spend with this, and the more you realize, like how, I want to say almost tender, how tender energy is. When you set up a bunch of dominoes and you knock one, you can set a whole range of motions. It's like the Rube Goldberg machine of emotions and energy.
Right.
But it really does. It does make a difference. And if you're lucky enough to have some real world experience with someone who's kind of a master at this, you realize how powerful it is. And then you realize how careful they are and how mindful they are of their actions and their words and their thoughts.
Well, once again, going back to Pythagoras, it was said that for the first year or two, you weren't allowed to speak as a student because every time you speak, you utter. You sentence something to life through your utterance, through your speaking. And until you're skilled, let's not litter the place with, non-useful forms.
Yeah.
Therefore, silence.
Yeah. That's where there's that concept that there's no such thing as a stupid question, but there is such a thing as an ill-timed question. There's a time and a place. And I also, someone who was kind of a mentor to me was fond of saying, just because we can doesn't mean we should. Having that discretion is everything.
Exactly. And I know when I grew up, we had a distinction between can and may. Can I have another biscuit? I'm sure you can, but you may not. So we haven't understood the distinction between may, which is it right at this moment to do this? Of course, we can do anything we want. Yeah. And that's the whole thing of free will. We're doing anything we want without being mindful or thoughtful or understanding what the thought process is. The thought process is how we participate in the unfolding of the destiny of this one life that we're a part of. And we only learn by being responsible for our own sphere. So my life is the state it's in as a result of my stage of evolution and the way that I manage my energy each day. What kind of thoughts am I putting out in the world? What kind of thoughts am I directing towards myself? Am I filled with self-pity? Am I filled with doubt? That's one of the things that Agni Yoga talks about. Incredibly, that doubt just pulls the rug from everything. Yeah, there is no way. It says to indolence, which is laziness, is attached doubt and self-pity. No energy. it says, no energy comes into action through such a poisonous handicap. Doubt corrodes everything. Unsustained efforts and self-pity weaken even the strong in spirit. So it's saying we can self-sabotage.
Yeah, that crisis of confidence. That's that's sort of the killer to it. For anyone that's in an athletic background knows the moment you start thinking about something instead of doing, you're lost. So it's
Yeah, but that you go back to athletes who, before they run a race, go over the race in their mind.
Sure.
Step by step and visual. It's just the power of visualization that came into sports. And I know when I was doing a lot of the long distance running, I would use affirmations and I would use visualizations to help me access the energy that would carry me through. One of my favorite affirmations when I was running like the ultra marathons, that these were the mountain races, that like 100-mile mountain races, was, I am running through life. Life is running through me. And when I did the life is running through me, you could feel this rush and flow of energy because I was stating a truth. An affirmation is a statement of truth.
Yeah.
And so I want to go back to this self-fulfilling prophecy, what you've just brought up.
Right.
There is, in one of the Agni Yoga books, which is Aum, A-U-M, there is a sloka, number 357, if anyone wants to look it up later, number 357 in your hymn books.
Yeah.
It says, there exists self-styled invalids who suggest to themselves all the symptoms of disease. But there is still a more dangerous case, when a person has in themselves the germs of a disease and instead of opposing it, gives into it and deprives themselves of the possibility of recovery. In the first case, it is possible to act by means of suggestion, for there is no real disease. But in the second, it is far more difficult. The person themselves hastens the process of disease. They become the slave of their sickness, and they try with all their strength to aggravate the symptoms of the disease. They constantly observe themselves, but not in a desire to recover. They fall into the deepest self-pity, and this drives away every possibility of suggestion. The person is even offended and angry when spoken to about the possibility of recovery. Thus, they can reach a dangerous degree of depression, which cannot be transformed into a rising strength. This acts as a counter energy, and the person deprives themselves of this basic value, which is the striving toward self-perfection. That's the raison d'être. That's the reason. Our striving towards self-perfection is not a selfish act. It's our part in the one discovering itself through its many aspects, striving towards self-perfection. And then these different selves realize that they're not separate selves, they're part of this aggregate, and then we have this greater self-realization. But this particular sloka, Joey, points out that you can fall into a funk and you actually are more comfortable because it's an easy way of giving up. And giving into the disease, hey, I'm sick, I'm sorry, I can't do this, I'm sick. Please send me your money, send me your pity, and help me keep going. But I don't have to do anything because I'm sick.
Right.
I've just taken myself out of the game as a positive, co-creative agent of life.
Right. Yeah, you put yourself on the bench.
I bench myself.
Yeah.
I'm on the IL.
Yeah.
I'm on the injured list.
That's right. That's right. And that's something that's easy to fall into. And I do see that. We were talking briefly before this episode. I see that online quite a bit. People who have kind of made an illness their personality, or have made a situation their personality and their profile, saying, and sure, you get that attention, but is that the right kind of attention? Is that the right kind of energy that you want to be attracting?
Well, you go back to when you step into your real power. You can only step into your real power through the gateway of the heart and through becoming impersonal. Because you have as much power as you like, as the Chinese said. you can access as much power as possible as long as you don't use it for your own means.
Yeah.
If I am here to serve the common good and I show a capacity and I grow that capacity, guess what? Life is going to say, oh, here's a nice channel, and they've just got a wider pipe. Let's pour more energy through it because here life can continue to grow. To the degree that I am not self-serving or looking to power to serve myself, I am a very powerful thing. And this is what people don't understand in this age and cult of personality.
Right, because isn't that some of the requirements for if you're on the path of initiation or the path of service, purity of intention is like the number one first thing.
Well, the two requirements, purity of intent and purity of heart.
Right.
Purity of intent means that what you are choosing to focus on with your life energy, which is the one psychic energy, actually is to carry out something that is for the good of the whole. Therefore, it's not for your sake alone, although you benefit because you're part of the whole. When we understand that our task is to bring love and healing and joy into the field, that's our gift. And yet we benefit from that gift because we're giving to the enrichment of a system of which we are an integral part.
Yeah, that's the important part right there.
Yeah.
I mean, that's the key. You know, like all this is a multiplier effect of because you are part of the system in which you are healing or building or propagating and propping up and
we've talked about this before, Joey, in several different ways, that stewardship for the ecosystem of self, the universe of self, is the playground in which we learn these lessons of godhood.
Right.
How do I take care of a portion of manifested life? Okay, Joey, you've been given a portion of manifested life. Your soul is living in this particular vehicle, and you've got a name attached to it, this incarnation. Okay, show that you know how to be a good steward and bring wholeness to it by your directed thought through the agency of your heart and compassion. Okay, now you've proved that you can take care of that. Right, now we're going to give you a bigger sphere of responsibility. As we said before, what's the difference between a planetary logos and you as the logos of your own self?
Yeah. Scale.
Yeah. Experience.
Yeah.
Experience and capacity earned and grown.
Right. Yeah. And you see that takes place, and sometimes people wonder why certain people exceed or excel or advance. It's like, you know, when you pass these tests, once you become the Lord of your own body, of your own mind, of your own being, you'll find that more attention and more energy is sent to you to process.
It does, and yet there's a little caveat here I'd like to put in. This is my understanding. Don't look to the outer manifestation and measures of success to show that evolution is taking place.
Absolutely.
It may be that one incarnation, the lesson you have to learn is to stand in the background, not take any credit, and be there as a causal factor for good. And, you know, that means disidentification with self as as the important point.
Right.
Rather than the importance being our ability to bring love to the whole system and health to the whole system. However, I agree with you that as we evolve, the more impersonal we are, we grow our capacity to wield power. And what is power? Power is simply the energy that is available to get things done. Right. What are we doing? Well, if it's to succeed and conquer and become a dictator, or if it's to access the deep knowledge of the universe so that I can bring more wholeness and health to not only my own system, but to the system called humanity or the system called the planet. Therefore, I wake up to the fact that, oh my gosh, this psychic energy that flows through me is allowing me to give more. And and become a force for good.
Yeah. Yeah, that sort of energetic stewardship, you
Yeah.
know. So, which is also, the first step in becoming part of a group, like, so first you have to master yourself, and then you can offer your ability, your energy to a group endeavor,
And a group isn't just a collection of people who have reached some sort of compromise.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
No, there are groups that do that, but they
Right.
get stuck in some sort of patterns. I've seen this. I've lived in communities where it's like an agreement of a certain compromise.
Right.
But if you come together around a higher common purpose and give yourselves to this, then each person brings their own thing to it. But at some point, there is this subtle shift from a group of individuals to a group individual.
Okay.
To a group of servers to a group server.
Yeah.
When that shift takes place, you now become a larger reality, a larger entity. You have now allowed life to have a new planet's been born. It's a group.
Right.
And the difference between a number of people thinking together and working together, then one being comprising this interconnected field of human beings who are being called together to do something together, you have a different access to power.
Yeah.
Now that is in the distant, because to move from I to we and understand we is simply a larger version of I, it requires you go through a lot of different processes of disidentification, cross a lot of thresholds, go through a lot of black holes in order to come out into a white hole of a new birth.
Yeah, there's the spiritual humility. There's like surrender and trust. There's all these steps, and and that comes back to responsibility and accountability.
Right, and so let's look around at the moment. We've got an election campaign going on, which is really just another way of showing on the great stage of life all the unresolved aspects and all the higher impulses. They're all on stage together, being played out by various actors. And at the moment, there's a lot of name calling. Mm-hmm. And some of it is derogatory. Some of it denigrates. Some of it is not nice. It's not kind. Now, it may be clever, but it still creates toxicity. Mm-hmm. And we're poisoning the waters that we're all living in. Every time I put something into the ethers that is negative about somebody else, I disrespect myself. Because my true calling is to bring love and wholeness and healing into the world. Until I've understood that, I'm going to go through the machinations of Michael trying to be number one, or to prove that I'm better than somebody else, or if I don't like them, I'll resort to name calling. Mm-hmm. I remember growing up, there was this little phrase we had as children: sticks and stones may break my bones, but names will never hurt me.
Yeah. Well, I don't think we really teach that one anymore.
No. So why don't we elevate this and say, okay, so what is the positive and higher aspect of thinking? And let's bring it back to what we do here at Meditation Mount. We talk a lot about creative meditation. What is creative meditation? It is participating in this continuous flow of psychic energy through us and using the power of the mind coupled with the compassion of the heart to sense what is seeking to be born in the mind of the Creator. And as we are made in the image and likeness of the Creator, we are the incarnated agents of this one life. Therefore, we are here to sense the future and to precipitate it into the present based on the accumulations of the past. So really, creative meditation that we do here at Meditation Mount is using the power of focused thought to create, just as we talk about computer-generated images. We've used this analogy before. In Hollywood, they use computer-generated images, and you get all these wonderful images on the screen that are amazing. They're future-oriented, but they're not possible now in reality. It's a computer-generated reality. What we have is a mind, or a higher mind generated reality that we are using to create these images. And it's not a movie we're creating. These are the seeds that we're planting into the psychic field of humanity, so that they can be picked up, they can enter into the hearts and minds, they can be quickened, they can germinate, and then they can be picked up on as, wow, this feels right. If you and I, and all of us here at Meditation Mount, are putting out these magnetic seed thoughts of a better world, not as some sort of wishful thinking, but as sowing magnetic seeds of new possibilities in the ethers, these are real. These are magnetic. Just because they haven't revealed themselves yet in form, they still are living beings. And I think that's the thing to understand, that all of these things are living beings. A thought is a living being. This is why when we set something into motion, it has a life of its own. So if it's just wishful thinking, oh, I wish I had that, and we just have a little bit of a thought about it, and it's like a soap bubble. We blow it out and then it pops, because it doesn't have the power and coherence to continue. So thank God, a lot of people's thoughts just pop like soap bubbles. But if you focus with intent on something, you eventually bring it into manifestation. The question is the thought behind it benevolent or malevolent? Is it self-serving or serving the good of the whole? That is what differentiates between white magic and black magic. It is the utilization of the maxim, energy follows thought, for the service of the self or the service for the good of the whole. There is a dividing line. You reach a dividing point in your capacity where you take one of two paths. The left-hand path or the right-hand path, as it's been called. It should become a white magician or a black magician. A black magician has the power of the elements, but it's said that the black magician does not stand in the center of their soul. Therefore, they can't draw upon greater solar energies. They can draw upon the powerful elements of earth, which appear to me more powerful than the subtle energies. Just as a hammer, if I hit you with a hammer, it seems to hurt you more than if I send a harmful thought to you.
Well, I mean, if you think about that, in the local, a hammer is incredibly powerful, but compared to the power that holds the Earth in orbit around the sun, it's nothing.
Exactly.
And you can't see that power. So I mean, that's kind of an illustration of sort of the scale that we're talking about. Like in the local and in the proximate, the hammer seems the more powerful.
Well, it said that the thought and action are identical in terms of their significance. This is something else, just to follow on with what you just said. Agni Yoga said, and this is a way of illustrating it. He said, compare how a thought about murder affects the spectrum of the aura and how an actual murder does so. The results will be identical. It is difficult for people to grasp the fact that the thought has the same effect as the deed. But whoever wishes to take part in the evolution of the world must understand the significance of thought. This is where we go about guarding our thoughts, safeguarding our thoughts, making sure that they are harmless. Harmlessness is to make sure that the power of who we are is used wisely and used in service of life.
Yeah.
And at the moment, we've got a lot of self-serving human units misusing power, misappropriating power. This is not a judgment. I'm just witnessing what's happening at the planet, because we haven't yet got the big aha, oh my God, this is not about me. It's about life. It's about us. And until the self-centeredness cracks and we step inside a greater space called, hey, we the people, striving towards not self-perfection, but a more perfect union.
Yeah.
It's enshrined.
Yeah.
It's enshrined in the DNA of the United States of America. This striving towards a more perfect union.
Yeah.
Now, a more perfect union could be that I believe one person should have all the power and tell everyone else what to do. That's not what the Creator does. The Creator says, hey, I am you. I want you to grow into a realization of who you are, who I am, because I can only be fully realized, the great I am, when you, an aspect of myself, have fully realized who you are and you've come home. You've consciously chosen to come on home.
Yeah.
So
that's the big reveal, isn't it?
God, man. So I go back to creative meditation. It's just, we're sitting here wishful thinking, hoping that something. As a gardener, I know when I've got the seeds in my hands, those seeds contain the promise for a fact of the future. Now, as we said before, if I take a knife and cut it open, I can't show you the future because it can't be revealed by cutting the seed open with the analytical sharpness of the mind, a keen intellect.
Right.
It can only be shown by being sown and grown. Therefore, the work that we do here at Meditation Mount is the seeding of the ethers with the new possibilities of fiery hope. And what we do is the qualities that we bring into the seeds of this preferred future, this new world, are the principles of essential divinity, goodwill, and unanimity. Because if we are projecting seed thoughts of a new society, of a new civilization, if they have built into them as part of their foundation, baked into the very foundation of this society, is this understanding that each one of us carries a spark of the Creator. Each one of us is sacred. Each one of us deserves to be honored and celebrated, not as an isolated individual, but as one of the many aspects of a unified field. And then the principle of goodwill, which espouses that love is that which flows through as the lifeblood. So love really is the quality, as we said just recently, love is the quality of the psychic energy. It's the fire of love, which is the quality of psychic energy that is flowing through us at this time. This can't be just grasped with the mind. We actually have to get in and do it and be it and feel it.
Yeah.
This is full immersion.
Yeah. How do we do that? How do we deepen our connection with inner light and guidance? And that, so we've sort of shaped this and got into what is energy, what is thought. Well, how do we do that on a personal level in terms of actually deepening that connection? Like how do we start that process for those who are not on this journey? Or if you are on this journey, how do you make sure that you're not ending up in a funk, or you're not ending up in those moments of extended despair?
Oh, what a question, Joey.
Not to just put it all.
No, but it's a brilliant question. It's a brilliant question. The first thing for me to do is to not allow myself to get into a funk. Getting into a funk is when I get self-centered, and then I have this self-pity that comes in. And, oh, woe is me. And it takes all the energy away from my ability to give to others. I can't even give to myself. I've just cut off the stream of psychic energy that flows through me, through doubt, through pity. It's cut off the circulation. So how do I get out of a funk? Sometimes it's not by meditating or thinking, or it's simply by going outdoors and looking at the beauty of a flower and realizing that this beauty is the manifestation in form of a truth. This flower is the gift of this particular realm of nature. It is revealing to me sacred geometry. Just as the Platonic solids reveal the sacred geometry of life, so a flower reveals real-time the sacred geometry of life and the beauty. Now, if we contain within us the sacred geometry of our relationship with the one life, then when we flower as a humanity, it will be a time of great beauty. So how I get out of the funk is gratitude and beauty. We go back to a couple of the names that Agni Yoga gave for this psychic energy: grace, gratitude, beauty. Grace and beauty were the two that was named. And it seems, well, what has that got to do with anything? Well, beauty is that which reconnects us with life, because when life reveals itself in its full, pure way, is beauty. Why do we think something's beautiful? Because it resonates inside of us as truth. And we've used this term before, that beauty is simply truth revealed in time and space through love. So getting out of the funk, I go into funks, and it's easy. And
I do as well. So it's
well, Joe, there was a time a few years ago where I had like a minor depression. I think we've all gone through these periods. Sometimes they lasted a day or a week. Mine lasted about 9 or 10 months. And I knew I was in some sort of mild depression because I was standing on the hilltop in the south of Italy, looking over this most magnificent scenery that a friend of mine had driven, hours to take me to the top of this hill to see the most magnificent view you could ever see, kind of thing. And I was standing there going, ho-hum.
Yeah.
It didn't register. I registered, oh yeah, there's some hills out there. Yeah, okay, thank you. But it didn't register in my heart. So part 2 of my answer to your question is the heart.
Yeah.
Unless we open the heart, stand in the heart, and allow psychic energy to move through the heart as we fashion it with the instrument of thinking, of thought, with the mind, it will not reveal the truth and beauty of the life that lives within us and the life that is seeking to be perfected through us and revealed through us. We are agents of revelation, and the tools we have are compassionate heart, a focused mind, and the fact that we are swimming in and living in and crystals of this universal energy. That's a sort of a meta way of looking at it, but the power of thought, I go back to when I was a child, I think it was like 6 or 7, I was given a magnifying glass. All I could do was go outside and burn leaves, burn holes in leaves.
Yeah.
and then later I realized, oh my gosh, my mind is a lens. I can focus the power of the soul, the true solar power, through my mind, and either I can burn a hole in something, or I can, with that focused intent, bring about something that is beneficial. And that reminds me, I think it was Ray Bradbury. He wrote many short stories. And one of the stories I believe that I'm going to attribute to Ray Bradbury, and I'm sure if I'm wrong, somebody will correct us, there was this society that when somebody was sentenced, they committed a crime and they were sentenced, they were then brought to the center of like a sports stadium. They were placed at the middle, of the field. And everybody then directed hateful, negative thoughts to them. And they would basically burn, shrivel up, die.
Yeah.
Now, that's sort of, that's true.
Well, it's sort of like the Atlantis, having that psychic energy, psychic power.
Well, because energy is neutral. And then we talked about being a force for good. Let's differentiate between energy and force.
Okay.
Energy is that which is the life-sustaining energy of life, like love. But when we qualify it and apply it, it becomes force. So energy, when we qualify it into like kindness, goodwill, and we apply it, it becomes a force for that energy or a force of that energy. So being a force for good is to allow the principle of goodwill to infuse our actions. So there is a distinction between energy and force.
Yeah.
Force is, if you like, how we've utilized the energy to make it useful in the moment and applicable. So being a force for good in the world is a very powerful statement.
Yeah.
It means that we're able to take life's energy and deliver it to wherever it's needed to produce goodness for the good of the whole.
Yeah.
So becoming a force for good is very real. And that, I guess, is what is needed. Humanity is being called by the cosmos to become a force for good, which simply means fulfill your destiny. How do you fulfill your destiny? By realizing that you're part of this ocean of life, psychic energy, all pervading. Realize that you have a task, and that task is fulfilled by deep listening through the heart, picking up on what is yours to give and what part to play in the one life, and then using the power of thought to harness and focus this psychic energy and manifest what needs to be created through the agency of a loving heart. That's what, if you like, the planet is waiting for humanity to do and get its act together so that it can perform. It's like my life is more healthy when I realize that my life is about being alive and being part of this one life and understanding that it's focused through me, but it's not about me.
Right. Yeah, it's embodying a spirit of service and selflessness in your everyday life.
Which gives me a stronger sense of self-joy.
Yeah.
I don't have to aggrandize myself. I don't have to sort of, it's not about crowd size.
Right. When you realize you are the crowd, no matter what, you're the whole thing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I know hopefully this hasn't been rambling because the idea of focused thought is it's non-rambling.
Right.
But I just felt today we could double click on the phrase that we use all the time, energy follows thought. And then you realize that right here and now in this very moment, I choose how to condition the energy flowing through me. And the output of this input is how I affect the world, how we affect the world. So energy follows thought. But how do we utilize this reality? And how do we utilize this spiritual maxim? It's a truth, but the truth has to be applied. And when truth is applied, as we just said, it creates beauty.
Yeah.
When it's non-distorted.
Yeah.
Through a pure lens. So purity of intent, purity of heart, as we talked about earlier, is the guarantee of the right use of energy. I don't know what else to say. I think
that's a beautiful summation. When you see the truth and the beauty and the beauty and the truth, and then you're on the right path.
And you look around at the moment, and do we see the full revelation of beauty? No,
not yet.
But in our hearts, we have this striving towards self-perfection.
Yeah.
The striving towards self-perfection is the pressure of this psychic energy, of this universal energy, to be active agents of life.
All right.
Oh,
I love that.
okay.
It's a call to service.
It's a call to be ourselves, but to be our greater selves, and not to be in self-service, but to be in life, to be alive. If we can finally, quote Ram Dass by, be here now in the fullness of who we are.
That's right.
Well, Joey, I'm sure there's more we can unpeel if we take the subject in a year from now.
Yeah.
Something more will be revealed. So before we began, we asked that new insights reveal themselves through this broadcast. And hopefully those of you who are listening, it isn't, here's some new ideas that somebody else had. We sincerely trust and believe and hope that something new is unfolded in you by being part of this deep question of, what does it mean to be a human being? What does it mean to be a co-creative agent of the one life? What does it mean to live this deep truth that energy follows thought?
All right.
I think that's a wrap.
That's a wrap. Thank you, Michael. That was beautiful.
Thank you, Joey.
All right. Then we'll see everyone next time.
Okay.
All right.